And she called me an ugly American, and I would call her my Canadian flower. And I don't think that we'll ever get there again. We had such power. And she would call me an ugly American, and I remember my Canadian rose, especially when...
Hello, I'm Papa Pete. Welcome to the first of what I hope will be many road trips in Canada. In June 2026, I made a quick circuit through Atlantic Canada. This term refers to the provinces of New Brunswick, Prince Edward Island, Nova Scotia, and Newfoundland and Labrador. I hope to visit Labrador someday. It just wasn't in the cards this time around. There are many things to see in these provinces, but I only had time for a handful. To help sort it out, I will make a broad sweep from southwest to northeast. We'll start in New Brunswick. The Bay of Fundy between New Brunswick and Nova Scotia has the world's highest tides. I observed tidal phenomena at 3 different spots in New Brunswick. In the city of Moncton, the tide comes rushing up the Petitcodiac River in what they call a tidal bore. I've heard that it can be tall enough to surf on, but this evening the wave was maybe a foot or 2 high. Further south is Hopewell Rocks Provincial Park. A staircase leads down to the muddy floor of the bay where you can walk around at low tide. At high tide, you can go kayaking in the same place. Even further south, there are some rapids in the city of St. John. People call them reversing rapids or reversing falls because they do just that. First, we see the water falling right to left. Later, as the tide comes in, the water falls from left to right, delivering fresh fish to birds and fishermen. In Prince Edward Island, I had just enough time to visit the north-central part of this small province. I really enjoyed walking along Thunder Cove Beach with its bright red rock formations. I saw a few of Prince Edward Island's 63 lighthouses. I really enjoyed the bucolic feel of the countryside with its unique mixture of agriculture and aquaculture. I paid a visit to Green Gables, the real-life inspiration for the fictional story of Anne of Green Gables. I had a very pleasant hike at Greenwich Dunes, part of Prince Edward Island National Park. Let's move on to Nova Scotia. We'll start with the first permanent European settlement north of Florida. In 1605, the French built a fort similar to this replica and called it Port Royal. This was the capital of what became known as Acadia. The French and the Brits jousted over this area for many decades. During this time, the settlement was relocated a few miles away. Eventually, the Brits came out on top and renamed the settlement Port Annapolis. There, the Brits built Fort Anne, whose remnants are still visible. Near Halifax in Nova Scotia is the small fishing village of Peggy's Cove. It is quite picturesque and hosts what I'm told is the most photographed lighthouse in Canada. Clearly, the place is quite popular. Cabot Trail is a scenic drive in northwestern Nova Scotia. I drove a small portion and got a great view of the Gulf of St. Lawrence. In far northeastern Nova Scotia is the Cape Breton Miners Museum. They do a one-of-a-kind guided tour of what was once a small coal mine directly under the museum. Did you notice me bumping my head? Let's watch it again. Fascinating explanation of the mining process and an eye-opening discussion of corporate exploitation of the miners, which was very similar to that of sharecroppers in the American South after the Civil War. Minus the lynchings, as far as I know. The ferry from Nova Scotia to Newfoundland is an adventure in itself. The shorter of the two ferries takes 6 hours to get to the southwestern corner of Newfoundland. If you're lucky, you can get a cabin with a view outside the ship. Newfoundland is amazing. I found joy driving miles and miles of wide open, raw, untouched spaces. With so many things to see, I really just scratched the surface. Gros Morne National Park is a sprawling expanse of mountains, shoreline, and more on Newfoundland's west coast. The park is named after Gros Morne Mountain. The mountain dominates the whole area and makes for a great place to hike. I did the 9-kilometer round-trip approach trail, which was quite scenic. Beyond that, a summit trail winds up a steep slope of loose rock. The upper trail always closes in May and June to allow newly born or hatched wildlife to develop undisturbed. The park also includes tablelands. This area is the result of a rare phenomenon in which the Earth's mantle has burst through the crust. The tableland rocks contain toxins. As a result, nothing can grow there. A short, gentle trail runs along what used to be a man-made gravel road. Because they brought in gravel from elsewhere, some plants are able to grow along this narrow strip. Theoretically, a trail extends into the ravine above, but it is not marked in any way, and it is essentially a steep obstacle course strewn with boulders. That just adds to the appeal of experiencing this otherworldly Martian landscape. The town of Twillingate in north-central Newfoundland calls itself the iceberg capital of the world. Even without icebergs, this place is spectacular, and I had a lot of fun searching for them. I came across two. My first iceberg was close to town, and I ended up seeing it from several different angles as I searched for more. I was on my way out of town when I spotted this other beauty from the highway. I got a bit closer with my drone. After hiking up a very steep trail, this was as close as I could safely get, just as the rain started getting serious. Skirwink Trail is in eastern Newfoundland. This 5-kilometer trail runs along the cliffs overlooking Robin Hood Bay near the village of Trinity. Outstanding scenery. Not far away is the Puffin Viewing Site in Elliston. A couple of very large rocks sit just off the coast and play host to puffins, seagulls, and other seabirds. A viewing site for tourists sits on the point. I could have stayed there all day. It was breeding season, and the puffins were busy clearing out their burrows. A couple of brave puffins flew over to gather nesting material right before our eyes. St. John's, the capital of Newfoundland, has loads of character. Overlooking the city is the former British military installation of Signal Hill. It played a key role in various battles with the French. Much later, it was used by the Italian inventor Marconi to receive the first transatlantic radio signal. Keep driving east and you will get to the easternmost point in North America, Cape Spear. That distinction alone makes it worth the trip. Add in the scenery and you'll want to linger for a while. As far east as you can drive towards the Atlantic, a fitting end to a great road trip to Atlantic Canada. And so we say, so long from Papa Pete.